Tuesday, 6 December, the year of our Lord 2022. Explosive news all over, not the least of which is coming out of Georgia. We're going to have an hour of bonus coverage starting at 7 o'clock. Real America's Voice. I want to thank everybody. We're going to have Jenny Beth Martin, Gene Seaver, John Fredericks live down in Georgia. It looks like it could be a historic day, and the stakes could not be higher. This would be a come from behind, but the turnout, as we said, the turnout with MAGA had to be huge. Kemp's machine, they're talking about 1.2 million, 1.3 million, maybe 1.4 million, who knows? But this is, Warnock was on Fox today pleading for people to come out, and he actually said Herschel has a path to victory. So we're going to be, it's on tenterhooks tonight, but we're going to have an hour from 7 to 8. Now, breaking news. President Trump organization found guilty of 12 counts of, I guess, tax fraud. The Kash Patel is going to be here also. Kash called it earlier in the day about James Baker just terminated by Elon Musk over Twitter. But I want to go. I got Miranda Devine by phone. Miranda has an amazing comment about this whole FBI and the whole. The really, it's the beating heart of it. And you heard as I put up on my Getter and I played this morning, Zen Master Jean Pierre. They can't handle this. They don't even know which way to go. They're leaking oil all over the White House. Even they don't even want to address this whole thing with Hunter Biden, the laptop from hell. The author of the book, Miranda Devine. Miranda, I got to ask you about Baker to start off with, because we had you on the show the other day, and you were talking about, and this is, I think you had been on Tucker the night before. You were disappointed, and you specifically went to. You said, "Hey, James Baker had an email." And it didn't even have the date time group. It didn't have stamped when it was sent. He said that's very important. It's very important at the time of day the thing went out. Now we find out what Kash called it this morning early in Real America's Voice. It looks like Taibbi and it said Barry Weiss caught it, that he was screening the information that came out on the first drop. Tell us what you know, and why is this a big deal about James Baker? Who is he? And why is it a big deal that he's been terminated by Elon Musk as general counsel over Twitter, ma'am?
Hi, Steve. Well, James Baker, as Kash Patel will tell you better than anybody, is a central figure as the former top lawyer at the FBI in all the Trump-Russia collusion hoaxes, all those scams that the FBI played to try and destroy the Trump administration even before he got into office. James Baker's at the center of every single one of those. He ended up being thrown out of the general counsel role at Twitter by Christopher Wray and departed shortly afterwards. So people say he was fired, but he wasn't exactly fired. He was just sort of pushed out. Then, lo and behold, James Baker shows up 5 months before the 2020 election.
Hold on. He was hang on. He was pushed out as general counsel at the FBI. He was pushed out by Ray when Ray came in, correct? Okay.
By Ray.
And I just want the audience to understand, general counsel, these general counsels for cabinet secretaries and for DOJ and for FBI, these guys are in the middle of everything, right? I mean, these are Washington is a city driven by lawyers. Everything's legal. Patel can tell that. He's a lawyer. We won't hold it against Kash. He's a good guy. But it's all driven by lawyers. General counsel of the FBI is about as important a job as you can have in the administrative state, Miranda Devine?
He's the right-hand man of the director. I mean, he was James Comey's very good friend. As Kash will tell you, he wrote the pre-exoneration memo for Hillary Clinton. He brought the tip about Alpha Bank into the FBI from his friend Michael Sussman. He's at the center of everything. This guy is the swamp. And then he shows up 5 months before the 2020 election as one of the top lawyers at Twitter. He gets hired by Twitter in June of 2020, just in time to assist in the censorship of the story from the New York Post about Hunter Biden's laptop in October of 2020 that the FBI knew was going to come. They had the laptop for almost a year. They'd had the laptop since December 2019. They knew it was legitimate. They knew it was not Russian disinformation. So I was horrified to realize that Elon Musk, when he did the big purge at Twitter just after he bought it, he got rid of most of the lawyers, but he didn't get rid of James Baker, the deputy general counsel, and one or two other people he kept on. And so when on Friday night, when Matt Taibbi was deputized by Elon Musk to release the Twitter files, And missing from it was any mention of the FBI, who we know was spying on Rudy Giuliani, knew that, would have had access to John Paul McIsaac's initial email telling Giuliani what he knew about the laptop from hell. So they knew everything, and they were the ones instrumental in censoring our story, and yet no mention of it in the Twitter files. So I smelled a rat, and sure enough, Elon Musk this afternoon, a couple of hours ago, has announced that he got rid of James Baker because he was basically involved in suppressing information. And someone said to Elon Musk on Twitter, did you ask him about it? And Elon Musk said, yes, his answer was less than satisfactory, something like that. So I want to know more. I mean, it's kind of not good enough. Matt Taibbi's now come out and he said tantalizingly, well, we're going to give you more. There's going to be number 2. And James Baker was intercepting and we think was censoring or limiting the flow of information in Twitter files, number 1 on Friday night, which is what we suspected. But it's not good enough. He's now saying, Matt Taibbi, that Barry Weiss and I are going to be looking at it and releasing it over time. We need to know, A, why was there that delay on Friday night? Matt Taibbi said it was because of Baker. What was Baker doing? Was he telling Elon Musk some bogus story about, there'll be a legal problem if you release this information? Did Baker covertly intercept and censor the Twitter files before Taibbi got them or before Taibbi could release them on Twitter? And is Elon Musk going to release all of the communications that James Baker had, particularly in October of 2020, with everybody, but particularly with any of his FBI compatriots, either past or present, anybody from the Democratic Party, anybody from the Biden campaign? We need, and even, intermediaries, we need to know everybody who had any communication with James Baker really throughout his time at Twitter, but particularly around the time of October 14, 2020, when they censored our story.
In one level, though, for 2 things, they're playing into your Miranda Devine's hands, because you see this is all going to come out, and you see how desperate they are to continue to suppress this information. They have to understand it's all going to come out. They've played into your hands, Miranda, because Baker has done what the FBI will do. They will suppress information and only leak out information they want out, or somehow they've been able to manipulate. The reason I know we got them is that what the White House did yesterday shows you they're so panicked, they don't even have a strategy. I mean, Zen Master Jean-Pierre was just babbling, right? It's old news. It's inappropriate. It's not nice. We've moved on. I mean, every buzzword she get you tell, hey, if you didn't, the communications director knows she's going to get hammered for that. They've sat there for hours, and that's the best they come up with. This cuts to they understand. They just want to go away. Mainstream media is not going to cover it. They hope it goes away. But we know it's going to be covered because this is to the beating heart of this nation right now, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, and Steve, it's worse than that they hope it's going to go away. Joe Biden's doing his usual pugnacious move, which is to shove Hunter Biden into everyone's face. There he was, front and center at the Kennedy Awards the other night, Sunday night, mingling with Julia Roberts and all the Hollywood movie stars, glad handing, coming in the royal party with his wife, striding through the ballroom of all the rich and famous. There he was at the White House. He's been living in the White House, it appears, since at least mid-November, before his daughter was married at the White House. Then he went off with Dad to Nantucket and was seen there getting on and off Air Force Two, and then Air Force One. I'm sorry, and then there he was on Marine One on Sunday, coming back from Camp David. We cannot get any access to the visitor logs at Camp David.
Hold it. Now, don't bury the lead. Don't bury the lead. He was at the state dinner, the first state dinner they had with Macron.
Oh, sorry.
Wasn't he front and center? McCarthy. Yeah. Don't bury the lead. Hey, the first state dinner. Don't bury the lead. He's at the state dinner. He's in your. By the way, the Bidens are an old Mick clan. They know how to go to the mattresses, and they're going to the mattresses. They know they got a problem. The first thing they're going to put it up in your grill and have the media just treat him like another guy. That's obviously one of their tactics, correct?
Absolutely. And Steve, you and I know, a Bannon and a Devine, we know how the mix work. We've seen it. I mean, it's Tammany Hall stuff, and we recognize it when we see it.
Big time. Big time. And they're going to hammer. Miranda, how do people, by the way, the book, The Laptop from Hell, is a must read. And I keep telling people it's getting more relevant every day because it's going to be one of the core documents. This investigation is going to go on. We just had Andy Biggs on here in the previous hour. Andy's announced to run for Speaker of the House. One of the reasons is he's saying, hey, these things are going to be tough, and we can't have guys that don't have titanium backbones because it's going to get rough. Don't think the Bidens are just going to sit there and lay down on this. They're not. The one thing they're a mean, gnarly group. And the brother that nobody talks about is probably the meanest and nastiest of all. And he's the quarterback. He's quarterbacking this thing. How do people get the book and how do they follow you? Your columns now are must reads. They always have been. For right now, the nation needs to focus on them since you're in the middle of this.
Thanks, Steve. Well, the book's still in hardcover, and it's at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, except the Barnes & Noble on Fifth Avenue in New York, which I keep on pointing out. They refuse to carry it, and they tell people it's out of stock. So I just put in a good word, Barnes & Noble, Fifth Avenue. And I'm on Twitter and all the social media platforms, social, etc. Just as at Miranda Devine, and you can read my columns on the New York Post website, and I have a newsletter now, a new newsletter which comes out on Thursdays. You can sign up for it, the New York Post.
Miranda Devine, thank you very much for taking time away today to explain this to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Stu.
Kash, we originally booked you to come on and talk about this bogus thing, Letitia James and these guys trying to going with the Trump organization. But of course, you had a called shot today. How did you know that Baker had suppressed the information and that Taibbi, Elon Musk, and Barry Weiss would eventually find that out, sir?
Well, look, Steve, as the guy who ran the Russiagate investigation, I knew, and we and Devin Nunes and I called years ago James Baker's criminal conspiracy with James Comey to quarterback the Russiagate hoax, to perpetrate the biggest criminal fraud in DOJ FBI history. What did these two guys do? They lied on a FISA application, had their attorneys suppress evidence from a federal judge, all to hijack a federal court and unlawfully surveil a presidential candidate. All the while, James Baker was leaking information, like his colleague Andy McCabe, sensitive information, unethically and unlawfully, to the media during this investigation. And then what happened? We got him fired as a result of our investigation. Well, guess what? It looks like I got him fired twice. When I was looking at the Twitter files and what Taibbi was putting out, I put up a monster posting on Truth Social. I said, Elon Musk this morning, as of this morning, is running the biggest disinformation cover-up operation because he is allowing the quarterback of the Russiagate conspiracy to screen the documentation at Twitter that they are supposedly releasing for transparency purposes. And what happens? Everybody called me out and said, how could you possibly know that? You know how I know that? I know the government gangsters, when you expose them for their corruption, they never change their feathers. And this guy got a soft landing at Twitter for a reason. And here's the other thing I said. This is not enough. I knew he was going to get fired, and I called it because he was illegally or unlawfully improperly screening the material at Twitter that's supposed to go out to the world. Who has he been in contact with? That's what I put up. Are you telling me this guy has talked to no one at the FBI via Twitter email? Are you telling me the FBI agents that were briefing Twitter weekly weren't meeting with James Baker when they rigged a presidential election with Hunter Biden's Russian disinformation scam? These guys, Chris Wray and Bill Barr, were in on it from the beginning. And Miranda Devine is excellent. Her reporting is outstanding. But just a slight correction. Chris Wray did not want to get rid of James Baker. We forced it out of him because we forced the corruption to be exposed. These guys wanted them to stay. The guys that committed Russiagate then get the landing parachute at Twitter. And what we now need, Steve, is, as you called it yesterday or the day before brilliantly, we're only in the first inning. But here's the thing. These guys at New York Times or whatever say they're uncovering this or that. My concern is Elon Musk has no idea what he's looking for and what the obstacles are, because he's never run an investigation of this type. And today is proof of it. And if he needs some suggestions, hey, bud, give me a call. I'll tell you what documents to get, what money to chase down, and what government gangsters and their cronies are hiding.
We'll make sure
your hornet's net.
We'll make sure that you get direct contact. What I thought was interesting after your Twitter, after your Truth Social, clearly people got that to Elon Musk because he said he confronted Baker and he let him go because he said on Twitter, he says his responses were less than satisfactory. Ladies and gentlemen, that's code for he lied to Elon Musk face, okay, to be terminated. You terminate a guy. Baker is a power player. When you're general counsel of the FBI, you're a power player in Washington, D.C., okay? It's a city run by lawyers. That's the senior federal investigative service. That they don't do anything that the general counsel does not have his hand in. That's a power player. And when he went to Twitter, it was shocking. But Elon Musk, he doesn't last 72 hours, I think, after they let the first dump. This also shows the nation and the world what scum they are. He tried to hoodwink Elon Musk. What I've been saying, and I've told the Elon Musk guys, you didn't buy a company, bro. You bought a crime scene, okay? You bought a crime scene. Right. And you got to, well, it is. It's a, listen, it's not, they're going to find out the revenue. Did it come from national security? Did it come from intelligence? Who these other agents? They admitted they had CCP agents. It was too hard to get rid of them. He bought a crime scene. And you're seeing it now. Yeah. When Taibbi and Barry Weiss sit there and go, I think Miranda Devine might be right on this email. By the way, the guy's been suppressing. He kept everything and suppressing information. This is why it was an hour and 20 minutes late the other night on the first night of the drop. I'm sure he's sitting there trying to maneuver and only put out the correct information. Kash, you've dealt with these guys. Here's the thing, but here's the positive news. Every day that goes on, Miranda Devine, Kash Patel, Dr. Naomi Wolf, as more and more information comes out, it becomes more and more real. This is not Kash running around with his hair on fire. Hey, we got a massive government conspiracy here that's got every level of the national security state in it. No, now you're sitting there, and it's Elon Musk and a bunch of liberals and progressives that are sitting there going, oh, my God, look what's happened here. Look what happened here. And this is not about Twitter executives as bad as it is. Yes, they ought to come up to Capitol Hill. This is about the FBI and the DOJ. Wait for it. In the Trump administration, Christopher Wray's a lifelong Republican. Bill Barr is a lifetime Republican. This shows you the depth of the problem. As Kash said the other day, it's not Republican and Democrat having those handles on them doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. And you're going to see that in this investigation. Everything we're talking about after the Russiagate thing all happened in the Trump administration. I mean, it didn't get any better, Kash. This is what you guys had to fight every day. It didn't get any better. When they sent Kash Patel to the Defense Department, how easy you think that gig was, right? Not note to self, not easy, right? No, but this is what people have to understand. This is hand-to-hand combat every day. And by the way, it's going to be hand-to-hand combat on the Hill. That's when you need people with titanium spines. And you think Trump's second term is going to be easier than the first? Are you kidding me? They know we're coming for them. And now this is going to be outright administrative state populist range warfare, right? Because both sides hate each other. There's no compromise. The country is going to either be one thing or the other. And that's what this fight's about, Kash Patel.
Yeah, and how do we know guys like James Baker are embedded into Twitter? Remember, James Baker is the same guy that when we hit the FBI with 17 subpoenas during Russiagate, he blocked and tackled and refused to release the corrupt documents about Peter Strzok and company making up fraudulent evidence to take to a FISA court. That was the number one lawyer's call at the FBI. His name was James Baker. That same man met with Michael Sussman from Perkins Coie, the DNC law firm that had the money pipeline of millions of dollars to pay for the Steele dossier. James Baker's general counsel meets with Michael Sussman.
Hold it. Also, Mark Elias Perkins Coie is the architect of the big Steele. Come on. But Perkins Coie is the nest of vipers in the middle of it.
I think I'm gonna really blow the roof off this thing. Get this. Even though James Baker went and landed as general counsel at Twitter, do you know who Twitter's outside counsel is to challenge subpoenas sent to them by the FBI? Perkins Coie. So the inside con man the lawyer for the FBI, is working with his pals at the DNC, who are the outside lawyers for Twitter, who expect us to believe them that they're going to be transparent. Wait till they get into the weeds of this thing. And you're right, Congress has a job to do. The next chairman has to subpoena every document from FBI and DOJ that went to Twitter, all communications.
Look,
and we are going to unveil
it. Here's the qualification that you need right now to head a committee or be speaker. You need titanium stones. This is going to be something the American people. Watergate and this stuff is all going to. No, Watergate and Iran-Contra. That's all. It's like fighting Obama over the Obamacare. This is going to seem like garden party stuff. We're into it now. We're into it. This is going to be deep. And I got Naomi Wolf's going to come in a second and blow your head up again on the biomedical security apparatus. Kash, how do we get to your books, your writings, all of it?
Yeah, one place on Truth Social, at Kash, and fightwithkash.com. But my Christmas books, look, I wrote The Plot Against the President at a level that James Baker and Adam Schiff could understand. ThePlotAgainstTheKing.com. We've got a Christmas special at ThePlotAgainstTheKing.com. It's Russiagate for kids and adults and corrupt government gangsters. And the sequel is Plot Against the King, 2,000 Mules, Election Integrity for adults and government gangsters, broken down to a children's level. Christmas package, Communist Tears mug. We got it all. PlotAgainstTheKing.com. Go buy these things and stuff freedom in your stockings and educate our children with history and the truth and not the fake news, and listen to the War Room nonstop.
But here's why I'm so proud of the show and the people we have on, contributors and guests like Kash. These guys write books and come out with books. Miranda Devine's book, The Laptop from Hell. Kash's book, which is written for children, but it's the best way to understand it, on Russiagate, and to get the whole preamble to what happened here. Naomi Wolf's book, The Bodies of Others. These books are more relevant in early 2023 than they were when they came to print, and they were damn relevant then. They were all big sellers then. That's when you have people that deal with the biggest issues of the day and are serious people that will explain that to you. That's the types of books you want to have. Those are the type of sites you want to go to. Don't waste your time. I'm a big believer in not wasting your time. That's what we have. The people on here we have.
15 yes, seconds. Sir. I've said this from the beginning. All roads lead back to Russiagate. It's the same corrupt government gangsters that go in and out of government and into the private sector. Get educated on The Plot Against the King and The Plot Against the President. It's coming full circle.
You have to understand it. And for these hearings that are going to come up, Kash, thank you for coming on here. By the way, you were coming on here about the bogus thing in New York. We'll dump that for another day. I don't want to get off important topics to chase that. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Steve.
Naomi Wolf, you've been sending me information today about this Yale thing. My heads are blowing up. The biomedical security state may be worse than the military-industrial complex. It's all part of it because of the bioweapons part. But would you have discovered on this whole Yale situation and the way the system works? Walk us through what you've currently found. And I think you're throwing down hard today, ma'am. Are you not?
Well, the facts are throwing down hard. The revelations are stunning. I mean, I can barely process these numbers myself. But to catch people up who weren't with us, I believe yesterday, when I was talking about my speech on Friday at Yale, I went to Yale on Friday for a protest convened by health freedom groups in Connecticut because Yale undergraduates, believe it or not, are being forced to take the bivalent booster, which again has been tested on 8 mice, all of whom got infected with COVID. And they're not being allowed to come back to campus if they don't take the bivalent booster, no matter how many vaccines they've already had, no matter if they've already had a prior booster, no matter if they've got health conditions that prevent them from safely taking this dangerous mRNA-based vaccine. And astonishingly, the faculty and the staff at Yale, which I assume includes the administration, are not being mandated to take the bivalent booster. So just the students, just the undergraduates are being forced to do this in order simply to resume their education.
How could that be? How could that be? How could that possibly be, ma'am?
Well, I said in my speech that I hadn't looked for the money trail for Yale, but from having seen the money trail in all these other major institutions that have been taken over and co-opted in our country, and seeing these billions flowing from HHS to subvert our media, to subvert our influencers, to subvert trusted messengers, religious organizations, I was sure we would find money behind this stunning, shocking, unlawful coercion playing out on the bodies of students, helpless students. And by the way, it's not like they're getting their $60,000 tuition money back if they refuse to take the bivalent booster. They'll just be sent home, and another lucrative student will be slotted into their place. So it's straight up fraud, as well as other crimes I'm going to get to. But we did. The numbers were brought to me by the world's best intel guy, Brian O'Shea, both from the TAGGS site, which is a U.S. government funding tracking site for government grants, and also from Yale's own websites and the Yale Daily News. And basically Yale's engaging in human trafficking. And what I mean is they're accepting sums of money that are literally astonishing, like literally larger than some countries' gross domestic product.
Hang on, we're gonna take a short break. We're gonna hold for the dramatic pause to come back and give the numbers. And Naomi Wolf, her beloved Yale, one of the greatest learning institutions in the Judeo-Christian West, is engaged in human trafficking. Pretty serious stuff. All next in the War Room.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. By the way, we got a special hour of coverage starting at 7 o'clock. I want everybody to stick around. We'll also be back up on Real America's Voice, of course, on Getter nonstop. I want everybody to stick around. We're going to go to Georgia and follow what may be a historic day of turnout and see where MAGA is, how MAGA did, where MAGA showed up. It looks like it could have significantly north of 1 million game day voters, which is pretty historic. Naomi Wolf, you went to Yale. You were shocked that the kids are kind of hostage. They're hostage, but the administrators don't have to get the bivalent booster, which has only been tried on a couple of rats. The faculty does not have to. But you dug deeper. You and O'Shea dug deeper and said, "Hey, something doesn't feel right here." What's the real heart of this? Why is this happening?
Okay, so. Right. Ordinarily, you'd think, how can they possibly coerce 5,000 undergraduates whose parents are powerful? They're the elite. They're lawyers. They're venture capitalists. They're hedge fund guys. They're bankers. They're politicians. How is this possible? Well, the numbers show how it's possible. It's absolutely stunning. Yale basically HHS has bought Yale, and we know that China has bought HHS. So here's what's happening. Yale received $9 billion from HHS since 1998, $1.7 billion of that since COVID began. So this past year, HHS sent Yale.
Will you stop?
Wait, I'm not done.
Stop.
You gotta listen to this.
Hold it. $1.7 billion since the start of COVID? Go ahead.
It's $1.7 billion. But wait, Steve, it's more mind-blowing than that. This past year, HHS gave Yale $607,281,891, right? So over $500 million. How much did Yale get in tuition? $474 million. So basically they're getting more from HHS than from tuition. And so what this means, and not only that, it's up 19% since the start of COVID, as I mentioned. So what this means is that basically Yale doesn't need its students as much as it needs HHS. And why do I say that this is human trafficking, right? And these are stunning numbers.
But hang on a second. Forget the human trafficking. What do they do with $600 million in a year from HHS? Because they got Defense Department and other people. There must be billions going there every year. What did they do for HHS for over $600 million, ma'am?
Well, that is a great idea, but I will tell you, great question. They are so swimming in cash that the Yale Daily News reported that they have a $276 million surplus in 2021 that they're trying to figure out what to do with. Well, I looked at some of the grants. They're absolutely absurd, but all of them have to do with believing in COVID, or at least the ones I found did. For example, they got $3.4 million from the government for student COVID emergency funding, right? Well, you can't have $3.4 million in student emergency COVID funding without doing things to the students, like masking them, distancing them, and presumably vaccinating them. There was $1 million to study burial practices to find out if there were extra deaths from COVID in Karachi. $1 million to go to burial grounds to see if there were extra deaths from COVID in Karachi. They didn't bother looking at, hospital records. That was what was happening. $1 million for Karachi extra deaths from COVID. And they, of course, Yale was the location. The Yale School of Psychology, I believe, was funded to do one of the original overcoming vaccine hesitancy studies, in which they found, bingo, Yale, this is, where this great education, this great institution is what it's devoting its skill sets for. They found that people are more likely to overcome vaccine hesitancy if you threaten their personal freedoms. And if you create a sense of shame and guilt in relation to the community around not getting vaccinated. So those are just some of the things that Yale allegedly was paid to do with this money. But really, the paper trail is pretty opaque, except that on Yale's own budget, it shows that it's getting more from HHS than from tuition. And just to put that in perspective, the endowment itself is $1.7 billion, and Yale is the biggest employer in Connecticut. So it's like the richest entity in Connecticut. It basically is a massive part of the economy of Connecticut. So I say all that as background for why I'm talking about human trafficking. Basically, when you understand those numbers, that Yale is taking more from grants from HHS, grants from the government, many of them related to COVID and this mythology of COVID being so serious and so dangerous. Basically, they have no incentive. They'd rather lose the students than lose HHS.
How do you jump to? How do you jump? We got a couple of minutes here. How do you jump from that to they're in the human trafficking business? Because you're saying they're trafficking these kids for the money from the government. Is that your theory of the case?
Well, it's not my theory of the case. It's out of Connecticut, the Connecticut legislative database, the law database. Basically, I'm very familiar with it because of other crimes that have been committed at Yale. But I'm trying to figure out, what is this crime? Forcing and coercing 5,000 students who are otherwise healthy to submit to a dangerous injection tried on 8 mice that we know, and Yale is lying. I mean, just straight up lying. The Yale Daily News did a hit piece on me and on this rally. The New Haven Register did a hit piece, and they have the same experts from Yale saying there's no research saying there's fertility harms. And that's just a lie. The journal Andrology showed that there are fertility harms. The VAERS database kept by the CDC shows that there are catastrophic fertility harms. So Yale's lying to the public, lying to students. What is this crime? So I know that it's a Title IX violation. Yale gets a lot of money, millions from the federal government. And by injuring young women reproductively, it's definitely creating an unequal educational environment. But I thought about human trafficking and looked up the definition of human trafficking, and that's really the closest to what we see here. So Yale took this massive amount of money, and the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000 forbids the recruitment, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of involuntary servitude. So but even more specifically to this case is how trafficking is defined at the state level in Connecticut. Wait, Steve, this is powerful and important. It uses fraud. It's the use of fraud, coercion, or force. And we've got that, right? Because Yale's lying about the safety of these vaccines. And they're definitely coercing students because they're, destroying their futures, right? To compel or induce another person to provide labor or services that person has a legal right to refrain from providing. And literally that describes the students at Yale. They have a legal right. Here's the Nuremberg Code. I showed everyone yesterday. This says the Yale students have a legal right not to take this vaccine, not to provide that service that then allows Yale University to collect $600 million from HHS. All right. So what is the penalty for?
Yeah, go ahead.
Class A felony, 20 years in jail, $20,000 fine for trafficking.
So hold up. We've got to bounce, but I want to make sure. You're going to pursue this. You're going to pursue this now of actually taking on one of the biggest, most prestigious institutions of higher learning in the world, and obviously the United States. You're going to take them on for the billions they've taken from HHS and what they're doing to the students without full disclosure of what's going on. Am I correct in that outline?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but James Ostrowski, who has taught these wonderful webinars to the War Room Posse, I've asked him if we can file criminal charges against Yale for human trafficking, and I'll see what he says. And this is a call out to other lawyers to help with that, to file criminal charges. And something very interesting is that Connecticut law has a confiscatory policy around human trafficking, where if you can prove that an institution or a group of people have trafficked human beings, the state gets the money. So the state of Connecticut could get the $600 million that Yale is generating from HHS.
Wow.
Some millions of it tied to COVID.
Well,
certainly, we're going to find policy tied to vaccination among those.
Maybe the parents, maybe the parents will wake up to what's happening to the kids. Naomi, how do people get to the Daily Cloud? Because this is pretty explosive stuff. How do they follow you?
Yeah, come to dailycloud.io, and you've been so generous. But again, please help us. We've got now 6 teams of lawyers pursuing various bad guys across the battlefield, and we need your help. We continue to need your help. I'm grateful to you. You can read my book, The Bodies of Others, from allseasonspress.com or from Amazon, of course. And you can follow me on Getter, Naomi R. Wolf, and Brian, who's posting all of these primary source documents showing these massive head exploding revenues that Yale is taking from HHS. He's at Brian O'Shea on Getter. It's shocking.
This is why we need to stop we got to stop the omnibus bill. This is how they're spending us into oblivion. It's all interconnected. Naomi, thank you very much. Honored to have you on here intentionally.
Thank you, Steve. Honored to be
here. The battlefield expands. Thank you, ma'am. So Darren Beattie, I asked you to tuck in here. We only got a couple of minutes, but I had to have you on today. Another called shot. Elon Musk bought the crime scene, sir, and he terminated James Baker from the FBI today for the suppression of information. You kind of called it. You said, hey, there's something wrong with this first dump. It's going to get better. But now we know that Elon confronted him after Barry Weiss and Taibbi found that he was suppressing it. And according to Elon's Twitter, he said his explanations were not satisfactory. It means he lied to his face. Give us your assessment of this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a fascinating developing story, and it was clear to anybody that, yes, I mean, the first tranche of the Twitter files was spectacular in the sense that we got confirmation of some of the things that we already knew, but there's this underlying sense of a limited hangout throughout the whole sort of exercise. That is to say, giving a little in order to cover up something bigger. And it turns out, when there's a something unseen, affecting the planets, you can, infer that there is some kind of gravitational mass somewhere in the area. And in this case, it was a former FBI guy who was lurking around in the Twitter offices who somehow had some degree of vetting power over the files that were to be released. And so hopefully this means that we get greater and deeper visibility into the decision-making process and the communications associated with it. I'm still not thrilled with this idea of, picking and choosing, journalists to sort of vet and curate all of this material. I think Elon should just release it to the public. We don't need former FBI people vetting it for us. And frankly, we don't need Barry Weiss vetting the material for us either, especially when she has an extremely dubious track record when it comes to reporting on things like January 6th, which is ostensibly the subject of the next tranche of Twitter files. So I would advocate just release it all to the public, WikiLeaks it, and let us see for ourselves unmediated. But if we have to endure Barry Weiss's sort of interpretation and exposition, fine, but release it through her and then release it all to the public. But I don't think at this point we really can accept Barry Weiss's word on things.
You saw the White House. By the way, I think people are starting to hear you now at senior levels about this curation process. Just release it. Let the Posobics, let the Darren Beatties, let the James O'Keefe, let people dive into this and they'll figure it out. I want to ask you, we got a couple minutes. The White House, it wasn't even panic mode. It was like they can't even handle what's going on about FBI, DOJ related to Twitter. Give me your assessment of the meltdown over at the White House.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, again, this is the kind of thing, the basic architecture of this is not a mystery to anybody paying attention. Twitter is a national security asset. And so, of course, national security officials, known and unknown. I mean, this guy was a known quantity as part of the FBI, but I guarantee you there are unknown quantities who inhabit the sort of decision-making halls of Twitter and all the other tech companies as well. And so Elon should consider this as just the beginning of a process of what I might call flushing the toilet. He needs to flush the toilet of this sort of refuse from the intelligence community such that Twitter can function in an open, free, and a transparent fashion. Just allegedly what he wants to do.
How do people get to Revolver? Because you've been on all over this on so many different aspects, the FBI, the DOJ, Twitter, all of it. But how do people get to you on social media? How do they get to the site?
Revolver.news as always, and I hate to say it, but we have a Grinch who's trying to steal Revolver. We have a constant pest who's a woman I won't even mention, but she sniffs around in the trash and tries, anybody who wants to advertise with us, she harasses them. So if you want to read the dirty story of the sewer woman who's obsessed, George Soros' sewer woman, who's like, the level of obsession is something I've never seen in my life, but it's a pathetic display, but I guess it's like, weirdly, like in a creepy way, flattering that they think we're doing so much damage that Soros needs to set full-time people to make our lives more difficult. But if you want to read about that, go to Revolver News. It's the Grinch who tried to steal Revolver. Unfortunately, she was unsuccessful. We're staying here. We're not going anywhere, and we're going to continue to report all of the things that give everybody at the 7th floor of the FBI a headache.
Sewer woman. God, it's a combination of great reportage, your social media, and being on War Room with your hair brushed as a wild man you are. Beattie, don't ever change. Revolver can't change. We love you guys. Thank you for coming on.
Love you. Bye.
Just intelligent, great reporting. That's what Revolver is. I want to bring in former captain, Army Captain Emily Grace Rainey. Emily, this situation in Moore County, North Carolina, has now gotten global news. People are covering it in the Times of London, in the European papers, and of course the Asian papers are talking about it on Bloomberg when the capital markets report comes on overnight. So it's global news. I want to go back to the beginning, though, and I want to make sure it was so powerful what you said the other day. I want to go back to, because the power grid's one thing, but this situation with this drag queen, I don't think has been properly vetted. And you're going to have like 3 or 4 minutes laid out. What happened on Saturday at the end of this Christmas parade with this drag show situation, and what these group of Christians that you helped organize confronted them? Just walk us through the details.
Great, Steve. So let me lay the scene out for you. You have a very quaint downtown of a Southern conservative Christian area, and a drag show event coming from Raleigh called the House of Cox, with the chief performer Naomi decides they're going to do an all ages drag show in our historic downtown theater. So like you mentioned, we mobilized the community, got enough pressure to the point where they finally relented and changed the age from all ages to 18 and up. So our first objective was achieved, and we were very happy about that. But we still wanted to protest and pray because it was inappropriate that such a red light district show was right in a family-friendly downtown, and it was within 1,000 feet of a church and a school. So these are breaking basic ordinances. So we gathered, and for 2 hours from 5 to 7 p.m., a group of Christians and myself, we prayed over out front of the theater and read scriptures, Holy Scripture, and prayed, while no less than what was equivalent to an exorcism was happening on the other side of the police tape. And the, relentless, Christophobic, anti-Christian hate speech being spewed from a group of LGBTQ aggressive activists was, incredibly disturbing. The blasphemies were really just unspeakable. And we, as much as these aggressive leftists want there to be an attack on a drag show, they just can't seem to get the Christians to attack. Well, maybe it's just because that's not what Christian conservatives do. And so if they can't have us attack them, they will invent an attack. And that's what happened next.
You guys, you had control of the bullhorn. We got about a minute left. Everything that came across there was either holy scripture or prayer. Am I correct in that?
That's right, Steve. Yeah, the only extemporaneous talk came from a pastor who just spoke over the people, but everything else was directly from Holy Scripture. There wasn't any screaming to the other side like what was happening with us, which, like I said, was nothing short of anti-Christian hate speech. So, the complete juxtaposition and the lies that say that that somehow we're Christo-fascists, which is, this new narrative that goes along with the white nationalism narrative. It's just ludicrous. It's not based in reality, and they've really jumped the shark on this one, Steve.
You have footage up on your site. How do people get to you on social media? How do they find out more about you, ma'am?
So I've been completely censored on Instagram, but I have a backup account. It's Emily Grace 2.0 backup. I'm on Telegram at Emily Grace Uncancelable, and I have a Getter account at Emily Grace. Please pray for Moore County. We are having, still a lot of struggles getting this grid up and going. So thanks, Steve.
Tomorrow we'll get you back on. We'll talk about the grid. We'll have some experts on from Moore County.
Sounds good.
Emily, Grace, Rainey, thank you very much. Thank you very much for leading the protest, and thank you very much for being here in the War Room. Short break. We're going to Georgia next. Strap in. Polls just closed.